Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. You know, if I was to tell you that the almost absolutely perfect guest is on the show today, given what we like to do and what we like to talk about, I would say that that is true. She's virtually the perfect guest. She is a speaker. She is a podcaster. She is an author. She has worked with Deepak Chopra and graduated from his school. She's worked in a lot of different ways to help people learn to live the life that they truly want to live. Her name is Paula Swope. That's right, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, goody.
You got it right.
I didn't want to screw that up, and but it's great to have you here, and thank you for coming on the show. We've got lots and lots to talk about, you and I.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be invited. And yes, you got my last name right. A lot of people pronounce it swoop.
Oh,
and, yeah. And I don't know where they get that because of the way it's spelled, but I kind of like it. It's like, swoop you up. But yeah, it's swope.
Well, and what's it like going through Deepak Chopra's classes and learning all about spirituality from him and his work?
Oh my God, I totally drank the Kool-Aid. When I enrolled at the Chopra Center, I underestimated the experience because I went into it thinking I was going to grow professionally, get the credentialing that I needed to build trust with people so they would hire me to help them and just learn new business skills and just really enhance my business. I mean, that's where my mind was at. And I got all of those things. But it changed me personally. I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago when I started my studies there at the Chopra Center. Everything that I learned from Deepak has greatly enhanced my quality of life, particularly my health. And I'm 48 years old, postmenopausal, and most women at this stage in their life, their health starts to decline. It starts to deteriorate because going through the stages of menopause will absolutely rip you to shreds if you don't know what's going on. But because of what I learned at the Chopra Center, I'm sitting here today in the best shape and the best health that I've ever been in my life. I feel better at 48 years old than I did 20 years ago. I feel better than I did when I was a teenager. And I did not expect to benefit like that when I enrolled. And I remember even complaining about how high the tuition was. And it's like, you can't put a price tag on that type of wisdom that I learned at the Chopra Center. And it has been a true life-changing experience. And that's the honest to God's truth.
And you've taken that work and the information that you got there, and you've self-applied it in your own unique, special way. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about the subconscious interference that I had with my health. And I don't want to beat up on my poor old mother because she really did not intend to cause any damage or do me any harm. What I'm about to tell you, she thought she was protecting me, and she just didn't know any better. So from the time I was really little, like 3 or 4 years old, she believed that I was like sickly and puny. And I don't know where that started, but I think it was because I was a carrier of strep throat, and I had a tonsillectomy when I was like 5 years old, which is really common. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. And so that caused me to be sick, and they took my tonsils out. But I continued to just stay sick. And she would say to me, you know, Paula, you're just like mommy, talking about her mother. You get sick. You get sick easily. You're puny. You're frail. Well, I remember wholeheartedly believing that about myself when I was like as young as 6, 7 years old. And I believed that. I believed that I was just more susceptible to sickness than my peers. And that belief caused me to be sick for the first 3 decades of my life. And when I was in my late 20s and Dr. Wayne Dyer came along, and it's like 10,000 light bulbs went off when I heard him talk the first time, because he made more sense to me than anybody ever had. I realized what had happened, and I started looking at the facts. And the facts were that I was nothing like my grandmother. I mean, she had serious mental health issues that were never addressed. She self-medicated. She drank moonshine. She smoked 4 packs of cigarettes a day without a filter. She was in
I didn't
abuse.
even know there was that much time in a day to smoke 4 packs of cigarettes in a day.
I'm telling you, when she passed away in her early 50s of lung cancer, and she would take the oxygen off and smoke. Okay. That's why she was sick, and everything else in her life. It's like all of these other factors. And I was like, well, there's nothing like her. I mean, come on. And I started looking at the facts. And when I drilled right down to the core of it, I realized that it was my belief system that was causing me to be sick. I mean, I would plan ahead for sickness. Like December was always a really sick month for me. You know, I would come down with a debilitating head cold that would just hang on to me for dear life, or I'd get pneumonia or bronchitis or the flu or a stomach virus or something. And like around September, October, when people would be planning ahead for the holidays, I would decline invitations and say, I'll be sick that week. I won't be able to go. I was ridiculous. And I had to clean all that garbage out. Well, I had done a lot of that work, that subconscious work, that subconscious cleansing, if you will, when I started at the Chopra Center. But when I got into studying Ayurveda, that's when I really took control of my health. And I had always been led to believe that we're, you know, kind of victims of chance. You know, if you are destined to get a disease and you're just going to get it, there's nothing you can do about that. You don't really have any control over things like that. Well, I learned that I absolutely do have control over things like that. And Ayurveda, adopting those practices, integrating those practices into my daily life, put me in the driver's seat of my health. And it took a long time for me to get to where I'm at right now. But 2024 was the first year of my life that I went an entire year without any sickness whatsoever. And
That's
it's
amazing.
yeah. And at the tail end of 2023, I had only had like maybe a head cold that year, which one head cold for me in a year in comparison to 10, that was a big deal. And so my health has kept getting, you know, better and better as every year would go by. But then 2024 was like I hit, you know, my goal. Because at the end of 2023, I said, you know, I'm going to see if I can go 1 year and not have any sickness whatsoever. And I did, and I'm still going. I feel great right now. And integrating the Ayurveda practices helped me to reduce inflammation in my body. And I didn't know anything about inflammation when I started studying with Deepak. I didn't know about that. I was very uninformed. I knew very little about my anatomy. And when I started studying with Deepak, well, Deepak will take you to church about your brain and your anatomy and how your body is innately wired to heal itself.
Yeah.
And I heard that, and I'm like, okay, I'm in. And so that's how it was really, really life changing for me. And then I get to, teach. I get to go out and teach this stuff. And if people will just do it, then they can accomplish the same health goals that I did.
Exactly. Now, if there are people in our audience, I'm sure a lot of people who have no idea what Aramaic medicine is or where it came from. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it didn't originally begin in India
Yes,
way back when with Sanskrit and all of that. Like it's been there for like 5,000 years.
you're right. You're
Um,
right. I had
oh,
never heard of Ayurveda when I started studying at the Chopra Center. I had never heard of it. And yeah, it's a 5,000-year-old practice that originated in ancient India. And with my Appalachian accent, it was really, really funny to hear me in the chat rooms speaking the Sanskrit at the Chopra Center.
it's like you is doing it a fine job.
Right. It's like, they had like a little Dolly Parton running around the room speaking Sanskrit. And Sanskrit, it throws people for a loop anyway. But you don't really have to learn Sanskrit to adopt the Ayurveda practices. But, someone like me studying to be a, Ayurveda health specialist, yeah, I had to get down with Sanskrit some. So, but Ayurveda is it's a consciousness based approach to health. It's whole body, and it's experiential. So there's a huge emphasis on how your emotions impact your health, and that was huge for me. Learning about that was huge.
Well, and for those of you that are going, oh, come on, I want to point out that stress, as an example, they've proven now that stress is a major indicator of your health is going down the wrong road
Mm-hmm.
because of it can cause high blood pressure and heart disease and strokes and all that kind of stuff because of the stress of day-to-day living. And
Mm-hmm.
that is a mental thing, isn't it?
It is. And the way that this works and learning this is what really changed the trajectory of how I viewed the control that I had over my health. Okay. So there's acute stress and then there's chronic stress. And acute stress is, hey, it's okay. It's like, all right, we're going, let's see, we're late to the game with Christmas shopping. We go to the mall on Christmas Eve. All right, that's going to be a little bit stressful. It's going that acute stress. But when you go day to day and you're dealing with really stressful situations, if you don't do something to interrupt that or release that stress, then it turns into chronic stress. And chronic stress will turn into inflammation in the body. And if inflammation isn't alleviated, then that is what turns into disease. And inflammation is at the root cause of nearly every disease known to man. And what happens is our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight, flight, freeze, man, it just stays like in fifth gear all day long. When it's like we get on autopilot and we're just stressed all day long. It's like the minute our feet hit the floor in the morning, we are in fight, flight, freeze. And the reason that happens is because we repress challenging emotions, and it causes our nervous system to be dysregulated when it's self-regulating, but it gets dysregulated. And then our body responds like we are being threatened all the time. And when that goes on for an extended period, it makes you physically sick. So that's how it's experiential. It's like mentally, that's how you can make yourself sick. And the first time that I had that lesson at the Chopra Center, it made so much sense. It's like my whole life flashed before my eyes. And it just, everything came together at that point. And so I've been on both sides of it. I have created sickness and I have created health. And I'd rather be on the side of creating health any day of the week. And
well, we all would like to be a lot healthier and stuff, but a lot of us don't know how. And inflammation, if you go to a Western trained doctor, they really have no idea. They say take this pill and that'll help lower your stress or lower your inflammation. But you're right, inflammation is the key, and it's a core to almost everything that can be wrong with us. We need to take a quick break, and this is a brand new advertiser that we're holding here, so I'd love your opinion on this. And so we'll be right back in just 1 minute. Everybody stay tuned. We have Paula Swope here, and she is we're going to talk about her podcast and also her book called Thought Snub, and we'll be right back. At 67 years young, I never thought I'd feel this good again. But thanks to Purium's Ultimate Transformation Lifestyle, to date, I've lost 37 pounds and gained energy, confidence, and a whole new outlook on life. This isn't a diet. Purium is a complete lifestyle change, giving me all the natural, organic, nutrition-packed superfoods that fuel my body, crush my cravings, and help me burn fat naturally without starving myself. No gimmicks, no guesswork, just a simple, proven system that works. Superfood shakes, detox support, and real results. If I can do this at 67, imagine what you can do. It's your time to feel better, look better, and live better with Purium. Let's do it now, and let's do it together. Go to www.positivetalkradio.net and click on the Transform You to get started. That's positivetalkradio.net. Transform You. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and Paula Swope is with us. What'd you think of that commercial?
Well, what was the name of that product?
It's called Purium, and
Purium.
it is it is all natural. See, and where my head is that we have a couple of components. One is if we eat better and get the better nutrition that we need, and we also have a better mindset, and that we work with our mind and our subconscious so that we can get rid of some of the things and what you talk about a great deal. Then you can really live a healthier life and a better life for every day that you're walking around here until you're not walking around anymore.
Right.
But in any event, I want to focus in on what you talk about, because your subconscious takes control of a lot of things that we're told, and the stories that we're told, like your mother when she was telling you, oh, Paula, you're just a frail little thing and you're just going to be sick all your life, because that's just, your grandma was that way and you're going to be that. Of course, grandma was into cigarettes and moonshine. That's a little different.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. Grandma was a wild woman. Yeah.
Well, and she's looking down on you going, I wasted, 30 years. I could have lived into my 80s had I taken better care of myself.
She absolutely could have. Yeah. And I've sat back and I've watched a whole, like generation after generation of the women in my family really just settle for not getting what they want. They never getting really what they wanted. And they truly believe and believed that the life that they wanted was not meant for them. It was completely just out of their reach. That, if somebody was wealthy and healthy and lucky, well, they had just been blessed. And then on this side, they hadn't been blessed. They were just kind of cursed or whatever. It wasn't for them, not for that, our family. It was for other people, people that were, better off. Or it was a ridiculous notion, but it was a belief system that was just absolutely embedded into the family culture. But it's also a belief system that's associated with poverty, because when you grow up either in poverty, or if you're raised by parents that were raised in poverty and they've got that mindset and they pass it on to you, there's an expectation of defeat. Everybody goes through life expecting to fail, and so they don't try that hard to get
Because
what they
why
want.
try?
Why
I'm
try?
going to fail anyway.
I'm going to fail anyway. That this is meant for so and so because they're better than me, and I'm never going to get this. They're never going to, and that's just the mindset. And it's like you leave this world. It's like the mission of your radio show. It's why I was so drawn to it, because you talk about finding your purpose and living it. And these people just leave this world not doing what they were supposed to do. And I think that's one of the biggest sources of unhappiness, because if you don't ever do what you're supposed to do, then you don't really ever feel that sustainable joy and happiness. You're not satisfied. And if you're not satisfied, then how can you ever be truly happy?
And that is one of the biggest sadnesses I have, is the number of people who go through their entire life and then they're on their last days and they're on their deathbed and they go, if only I had, and they have regrets about what they didn't do or what they didn't reach out to do. And it's so sad that people put up with it. That's why it's important. The work that you're doing is very important, because you're helping people realize and understand their greatness and understand that they can do, if they're passionate about something, by all means do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do all that, right?
Yeah. And it's just deciding, it's really deciding that you want something, and then believing that you can actually have it. And in order to believe it, you usually have to dig into your subconscious programming, your conditioning,
Yep.
and take inventory of what's true and what isn't. And I've heard you say this on your show a lot. Um, it's most of it's not true. I mean, we're talking probably, I'm going to say with me, 95% of what I was led to believe about myself wasn't true. It was all subjective. None of it was objective. It was all the opinions of the people around me and what they thought I was capable of doing and obtaining. And
Well, I was going to
that's
say, isn't it true that in your case, the people around you, because they were experiencing life in a different way and were used to being defeated
mm-hmm,
and not growing and not doing what they wanted to do, they just assumed that you were like them. And
right.
so they propagated that whole feeling for you that, oh, Paula, you're a sickly little child and you're going to
Mm-hmm.
be sick your whole life and all of that. But there was a point in time when you said, no, I'm not going to do that. How was that in your mid 20s or late 20s?
Late 20s. Hmm.
Congratulations for that, because you have now. I want to paint a picture for everybody. In up into your late 20s, you were sickly and you were thinking you were less than, and then you decided, "Phooey with that. I'm not going to do that anymore because I'm not less than." You took the steps of paying, and I understand it's a reasonably a lot of money to pay to go to Deepak Chopra's program and to begin to learn these things. And then Wayne Dyer came along. And by the way, if you don't know who Wayne Dyer is, he's passed now, but he's got a bunch of books that are still out there, and go look up Wayne Dyer and get some of his books. They can be really helpful to you. Do you agree?
Oh my God. Wayne Dyer
Apparently,
changed.
yeah.
Yeah, Wayne Dyer changed my life. He came along uh, in my late 20s. I was probably about 28 when I was introduced to Wayne Dyer. And one of his books, literally just out of the blue, fell into my lap. I can't remember how I got that book. I go back and forth. I can't remember if someone gave it to me or I bought it. I can't remember, but it was a book that I would have never, ever typically read. And I was at a real breaking point because I was just so sick of being miserable. And I had, talked to God and said, I am done. Like I am done. This is not where I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be around all these people. Something is off. There's got to be something better for me. I know it. And that book came along shortly after I kind of had that breaking point. And it was The Power of Intention. I don't remember how I got the book exactly, but I remember the book, and I've still got that book on my bookshelf. And I don't know how many times I've read it, but that was the first book I read of Dr. Dyer's, The Power of Intention. And I don't know if I have read every book that Wayne wrote, but I bet I've read 15 or so of his books. And it totally completely changed my life. And then I started watching, you remember when he did the PBS specials?
I that's how I found him. Was
Mm-hmm.
I was scrolling the TV and came upon him, and he was talking, and it was a PBS special, and
Mm-hmm.
he used to donate his time so that and they used it as a fundraiser, and he had books that he did, and then you could donate to PBS if you bought some of his books and some of his tapes and that kind of stuff. And the first time I heard him, I already was on this journey, and I'd read Conversations with God and and um, Gary Zukav's book, and many others, but I saw him, and he was like, "This guy is speaking to me." So I picked up the phone and called a friend that was in the same group that I was in, and said, "Are you listening? Are you watching Channel 9?" Which was a PBS channel
Mm-hmm.
in our area. And she said, "No." And I said, "Turn on Channel 9 quick." And so she did, and so we watched him, and he was remarkable. And I wish I had had the opportunity to interview him, but I didn't. But he was just remarkable.
He was. He absolutely was. And I wish I could have just met him.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I've never had someone have that type of impact on really changing my life that I've never even really got close to personally. Yeah, he was really something, and he left us with a lot of wisdom that will. I mean, it's going to live on. It will live on forever. And I think that anybody who is curious to start their spiritual journey, yeah, Wayne Dyer would be a really great person to look into.
Well, he was, and still is, because his works, you're right, they'll live on forever,
Oh
as
yeah,
will, and I believe some of them they're still playing the PBS specials
I
in
believe
in
so.
some in many markets, because his he resonated with so many people. But I want to tell you this, Paula, as we go to our break.
Mm-hmm.
He resonated, but you listened. Rather than changing the channel or not reading the book, you went on a mission because it was given to you by the universe when you said, God, I'm tired of this. Stop it. I want to do. And then you were given ways and people and things. But at the end of the day, it was you who listened to it and acted on it. And that is the difference in a lot of people's lives. They get the opportunity, but they don't act on it because, oh no, I'm not going to read that. Oh no, it's not going to work. And rather than that, and look where you are today. Being a successful podcaster and an author and a coach and doing all of those things and being healthy at the same time
Right.
is really a big deal. And all of that happened because you said yes to the universe. And we're going to talk more about that when we come back. We're talking with Paula Swope, and we're going to need to take a quick station break, and we'll be right back with more. Stay with us, everybody. The best is yet to come.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Paula Swope is here. I got to tell you, I'm enamored with you. You're just an extraordinary human being. And, well, you're kind of cute, too. But that's
Thank you. I got good lighting going on in here today. That's what it is.
Well, but I wanted to. I used to sell chicken, and I used to travel around the country. Spent a lot of time in the South, and there's a lot of folks who live in the South that have been there generationally since the Civil War, in some cases before. There's a lifestyle that a lot of people have that came from their folks or grandfolks or great-grandfolks, and it's kind of a continuing thing. In the food that they eat, it's very heavy, a lot of biscuits and gravy and all of that kind of thing, and their health in many cases declines over time because the way that they eat and all of those things. And you have risen above all of that. And when you were a little kid, I'm sure that when you were little and everybody got together, there was a lot of fried chicken, and there was, not to stereotype, but there was a lot of that kind of thing, wasn't there?
When I was 22, I think I was 22 years old, I had an annual checkup with my doctor, and my blood pressure was 150 over 110 that day. My weight was 204 pounds, and my cholesterol was
through the roof.
Through the roof.
Well, and then, but a lot of people, that's just the way that they eat down there, and and so you've risen above that. Congratulations, by the way. You look fabulous.
Well, thank you. It's hard work, I'll tell you that.
Well, but you know what? It's when you look at yourself in the mirror and you look at what you've done. Now, I know in the earlier piece, I said I've lost 37 pounds, which I have, and I'm on my way to losing more. but it makes you feel better. And it gives you your mindset and your consciousness and your subconsciousness something else to think about, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And I gained a lot of weight very quickly. My parents went through a divorce when I was like 18. And at the time, I really didn't realize that I was traumatized. And so was my mother. And neither one of us really realized that. And she dealt with it in her own way. And the way that I dealt with it was binge eating and binge drinking just mindlessly. And I went from a size 6 to a size 16 in like a year. That's no joke. And when I was carrying around all of that weight, oh man, people were cruel. They were cruel. And my whole physical appearance had changed. And when that happens with somebody, you need to pay attention because there's something bad going on internally. And we've seen that with a lot of famous people. Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley, who I absolutely adore. I might be his biggest fan. We've seen that with celebrities. And when a person's physical appearance changes like that, there's some serious problems going on. And that happened with me. And I carried that weight around for a few years. I had shed all of the weight by the time I was about probably 25 years old. But it really interfered with every aspect of my life, not just my physical health, but my emotional health, because people would say things to me when they would see me out in public. And oh my God, it would just humiliate the daylights out of me. And so I started going into situations expecting to be humiliated. And well, you expect something to happen and it happens. And so those years of my life were really, really bad. And, people talk about the good old days and they'll, say to you when you're a teenager, these are the best years of your life and all that shit. No, not for me. I wouldn't go back to that for nothing. But it was like the weight gain with me was connected to a way bigger picture than just the weight gain. And so, it's absolutely tied to how you feel about yourself in general and how you perceive yourself, the role you play in the world. You see yourself differently. I hope I'm making sense there.
Making perfect sense, because when you have people that are looking at you going, hey, Paula, you look different. Boy, have you gained a bunch of weight. They may not say it, but you hear it because they're looking you up and down and they're going, boy, and you become a big girl, and so it's important for you to understand that. And thank goodness that I got to ask you, what is it about you that allowed you to get through it, understand that you were going through it, and then take it to the next level? What do you consider yourself different, or were you just more open to positive change than some people are?
I always felt like that I was selling myself short, even when my mindset was just corroded with filth, just garbage. It's like my subconscious looked like a landfill. I was really, really unaware of my behavior and that I was like causing like all of these problems. But deep down, something kept me from completely losing it. And it was just this inner knowing that I've always had a really strong intuition. And although my intuition was muffled during those years, I still had that inner knowing, Paula, this is not for you. There's something better. There's something better. And that inner knowing was always there, and I would shut it out and shut it out and shut it out. And then one day I just decided to stop shutting it out. And this is how I roll. And this is how I've been for as long as I can remember. But I will just take a risk. I will just decide to do something, and I will just do it. And I was 24. I think I was 24. And I decided to start losing the weight. And I decided to go to college. And I went into college as a non-traditional student. Like, I literally decided overnight to go to college, and the fall semester was about to start. And my friend dropped me off on campus, and I went to the admissions office, and I had never been online before. And the people in the admissions office looked at me like I was insane. But something just pushed me. It was like a push. And that's the best way I can explain it. And that's when I started to really turn everything around. And college was a really, really good thing for me. I mean, I got a bachelor's degree in political science, which is worth about a quarter. But it helped me grow as a person, and it introduced me to a different group of people that were more open-minded and accepting of the way that I thought about things, when I had to kind of keep it under wraps with the people that I had been around until I went to college. And I stayed in college, absolutely excelled, and then went on to get my master's degree. And during those 6-7 years, I made a whole lot of shifts. And it's like something just kept pushing me to be better and to be better. And every time I made a decision to be better, a toxic person fell off. A bad habit fell off. And it's just been like a chain of events. And then when I entered into the spiritual world and was introduced to Wayne Dyer and started learning about manifestation and all the concepts, that's when I really started to understand what had been going on with me. And it was really like a divine intervention, I think, because when you're not on the right path, things are going to happen to let you know that. And if you ignore it, then, well, your life's probably going to be a living hell. But if you pay attention to that inner knowing like I had, instead of ignoring it, and you do something to act on it, then there's something great waiting on you if you're willing to take that path. And I remember during this 6-7 years, Wayne Dyer said something that it just changed the way I looked at everything. He said, hostile people live in a hostile world. Peaceful people live in a peaceful world. Same world. And I was like, oh my God. So I have a choice in this matter. And it was during that time that I understood what my God-given free will was for. And I started using it to my advantage instead of my disadvantage. And I never really felt like that I was necessarily different, but maybe somebody who wasn't willing to settle for mediocrity or just a crappy life. Like, I was so sick of that. I just zero tolerance for it. I just got zero tolerance.
And today, I imagine your entire group of friends are different than they were back then. When you were a kid, and now your family, you can do nothing about your family, and they're still your family. But a lot of people that are vibrating at a lower level and are not working for that. And I'll also tell you that inner tuition that you had, or intuition, was probably your soul and your guides and all the people that are working on your behalf here and elsewhere to help you become the great person that you already were, but didn't even know it.
Yeah, I believe that. I absolutely believe that. Yes, absolutely. That's
And
who was giving me that push.
yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm glad they didn't push you over, because
Mhm.
sometimes, but and that's the thing is, and we need to take our final break. But when the universe talks to you and when you are open to receiving what the universe gives you, I've got story upon story upon story that I can tell about my life that happened because I opened myself up, rather than saying, when I was 42, I never thought that I'd be on the radio doing this. um, and it just opened up for me because I wanted it to. and
Right.
uh, and the same thing for you with your works and your certifications and your schooling and your coaching and your authorship, which we need to talk about the book when we come back, if that's okay.
Oh
It's
yeah.
called Thought Snob: The Modern Spiritual Playbook for a Better Life. And we're going to come right back. It's just 30 seconds, everybody. Just relax.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
And welcome back to Positive Talk, everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald, and over there is Paula Swope. She, like I said, is an author, and she's a coach. And if you want to get in touch with her, you can always go to, and this will be interesting for you to figure out, paulaswope.com. And that is SWOPE.com. And you can get all the information about her, the book. You can even get a signed copy if you behave yourself and are really nice.
Mhm.
But Paula, thank you, and let's talk about the book a little bit. What motivated you to write it, and how long did it take you?
Oh my gosh. This book is the product of about 4 years of writing and fumbling and making mistakes and starting over. And, you know, a lot went into getting this book out into the world, but I had to get it out into the world because my inspiration for writing it was to help people do what I did. And Thought Snob is actually an acronym. So SNOB stands for See New Objective Beliefs. And it just goes back to what I was saying earlier, that one of the first steps I took in reversing my subconscious beliefs was to look at the facts. And when I took inventory of the beliefs that I had about myself, I realized that a vast majority of those beliefs were just outright false. They were lies. And snob, I'll tell you where snob comes from. When I was growing up and on through my, I mean, 20s, 30s, and that's the years that I was in closer to my family and the people that were primarily responsible for my socialization. I always had these big ideas, and I would talk about things that the rest of them did not understand or accept. Like I got in trouble when I was in the third grade for reading my friends' horoscopes. Like I had this astrology book.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and I was told that, I was doing the devil's work. I,
That's of the devil. You can't do that kind of stuff. Meditation's
right,
bad, all that stuff.
right, right. And I would talk about being wealthy and traveling and wanting to wear this and you do all this stuff. And I was told that I thought that I was better than them. And they called me a stuck up snob for wanting a different kind of lifestyle that they felt was unattainable for me. And that's where snob came from. And I put a twist on the word. And anytime that I would talk about wanting a life that they couldn't understand or get their head wrapped around, my dad would tell me, girl, you're getting above your raising. Okay. And the more I heard that, the more I thought, well, I guess I'm wrong or arrogant or something for wanting this stuff. I better switch gears. And for a long time, I did switch gears, and that didn't get me anywhere. And one day, I was at his house, and I had been doing the inner work for a few years. I was in my early 30s, and I was talking about something. I don't even remember what I was talking about. And he said, "Girl, you're getting above your raising." And I said, "God, I hope so."
A couple things. First of all, I love the sayings that the Southern people come up with. I had a boss, and I could have written a book on all the unique, funny things that he would say. But you're rising above your raising. What he was meaning to say was you're stepping out of your class. You're not destined to be special. You were raised as a kid that wasn't very special, and now you're thinking you're all uppity that, and you're snob and all that stuff.
Right. Too much.
Yeah.
Too much. Yeah.
And but at one point in time, you said, that's just not right. That's not me. And I'm going to fix it. And you've done that, and congratulations.
Yeah.
Are you as proud of you as I am as proud of you?
I'm proud of myself. Yes. I look back on everything that I've done, and through the whole thing, not to sound cheesy, I have lost most of my family members over this. And I haven't had any contact with my father since 2015. I have a half sister. These relationships, these ties have been severed, and they needed to be severed. And not to sound cheesy, but I've held my ground, and I've stood up for what I believe in, regardless of what came my way, any judgment, any lies, any assumptions, any harsh accusations, arguments. I have stood up for what I believe in through all of it. And I'm very, very proud of myself for that, because there are times when not so much with me anymore, but say 10 years ago or so, when I wasn't as emotionally intelligent and resilient as I am now, I wanted to cave. I wanted to cave. And people can infiltrate your belief system and sway you. And I refuse to be swayed. And I would keep in mind, these are the people that have kept me down and led me to believe things and put me in the middle of jealousy and resentment and drama. And I don't want their life. So why would I listen to any of this? And so I've stood strong through all of that. And yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself for doing it. And I broke a lot of generational curses, and I'm not handing those down to anybody. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself for that.
As well you should be, because that is, had you listened to them, you would not be the person that you are today. And
No.
the world needs more people like you in the world today, because we need to make a serious change into how we're talking to each other and behaving towards each other, and to really understand and be positive with each other, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And had I stayed in that culture, being influenced by all of that, stuff that's just it's lies, it's negative, it's negativity. I would have as much hatred in me as they do. And
Yep.
and I used to, no judgment here. I used to. But the difference between me and them is I don't anymore.
You've evolved past it, and I'm curious to know, and I'll bet this is true, that when those relationships dropped off, new, more powerful, better relationships took their place of people that you resonate with, and that operated a higher frequency. I'm willing to bet that's true. Is it?
Oh my goodness. That actually is a pattern that I started noticing early on in the game. Early on. Yeah. With every toxic person that made an exit, whether willingly or I pushed them out, somebody replaced them that actually had my best interest at heart. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, yes. Yeah.
I could talk to you for hours, and I will, because you're going to be back on the show again.
Oh, good. I would love that.
I would love to have you back. We're going to run out of time here, but I want you to take a couple of moments and to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know.
Sure. My podcast, the Thought Snob podcast. New episodes air every Tuesday, and it's everywhere you get your podcast. It's easy to find. Sometimes I have guests. Sometimes it's just me. Usually I have guests. But I started this podcast to help people feel better. It's like when you watch the news, you're probably not going to feel better after you watch the news. You listen to Positive Talk Radio, you're going to feel better. You're going to get something out of your show that's going to help you enhance the quality of your life. That's why I started the Thought Snob podcast. It's about extraordinary ways of living, non-traditional pathways to success, anything out of the ordinary that people don't consider like a pathway to success or good health. That's what's on the podcast. And we aired our first episode in June 2024. So we're coming up on a year here in just a few short months. So
congratulations.
Thank you. It's a lot of work, as you know. So there are a lot of episodes available that you can watch right now. It's absolutely free. It doesn't cost a penny to watch it. So I encourage people to take advantage of these free resources that are out there. You could watch the Thought Snob podcast and walk away with 10 things that you could integrate into your life right now without spending a penny or having to learn anything new, really. So I wanted to mention that. And then my newest business venture was started for the exact same reason. I've started doing my own spiritual retreats. The company is called SPA, Spiritual Power and Alchemy. And I'm doing my first retreat here in Kentucky, in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, on March the 22nd. And it will be the first of many.
Well, congratulations. And by the way, I suggest you go do that, because building community with other people, other like-minded people, is really paramount for us to get to the next place.
Absolutely.
And it really is cool. Paula Swope has been our guest. Go to paulaswope.com and you can find out about her podcast and go there. And she's even got a store. You can shop for stuff. And I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. Thank you for having me. I've loved every minute of it. It doesn't feel like an hour. It feels like we've been talking for like 10 minutes. Like, yeah, I could keep going. So we'll do this again.
We have to.
Yes.
If you wait right there, we'll be right. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, Be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin at kmmedia.pro. And let's see here. I got to do this and remove that and then end stream.